So these were some of the ideas that we had. What we'd like to do in the space. We'd like to chat and meet with people. But I think the overall thing that the group wanted was for the space to be green. We were chatting quite a lot about the West Cross Causeway street itself and how it's quite a dingy street, but it's got quite a lot of potential. It's got some nice wee shops and things on it, but it seems like it's not very well used. So we basically thought we would change the way that pedestrians flowed around the space and to try and encourage them down West Cross Causeway and to make that a nicer place to be itself. So we have a massive flying goose at the head of the street and a canopy of lights that's fallen in a V behind up the length of the street. We've also continued the goose theme by having little goosey footprints. We've got a tree, we've got stones to sit on, the tree's uplit as well. We've included 2 massive picture frames, and you would be able to see down West Cross Causeway, through the picture frame and here, all the way back again, and then coming down this street here, we'd be able to go down and hopefully get a new perspective on Buccleuch Street. That was that.
We had a few ideas and they were actually quite good, so we didn't really feel that it was right to try and singularise them. It's sort of, let's have a play with them all, and they are linked by some common ideas. But I'll hand over to Bob and we can discuss the Trojan horse. Guys, over to you.
There used to be a horse trough in the middle here, so if we made it a Trojan horse, it could also be a horse that children could climb into, and then they could have peepholes out, like the Greek warriors, which would give them views along this very striking view up along West Cross Causeway up to Arthur Seat, perhaps a view down here to along Buccleuch Street, and with IT facilities on the inside of the horse, they could activate things they could activate something that could recount stories to them of the Siege of Troy, Greek mythology, maybe Hindu mythology, children's poetry, children's stories, or stories of the old South Side, the old days in the South Side. And it could also then be a water feature.
I like the idea of reclaiming space back from vehicles and using it for the public. And when I first visited down, I thought it was quite exposed, and I'm always quite aware that whilst it's really sunny and nice today, there's not actually very many times of year where it would be pleasant maybe to sit there. People would be quite against that idea, and I was quite keen on providing another space, like a nook above the ground, that people could sit. I wanted just like a perforated box raised with little windows and slits, so it can connect with the context, with the views to Arthur's Seat and the streetscape as well.
The main things we were kind of looking at was this idea of creating a social interaction kind of in this area, kind of by introducing different textures, which included a soft play area of grass for children, which contrasts with a rough kind of Scottish meadow with wildflowers and seats, uplighting, bespoke benches to kind of define the space. These benches, one of the sketch ideas I was working on was to frame certain views which we found interesting. There's certain elements of the churches that are really beautiful, and if you frame them you can have the kind of a snapshot look through to them. Another idea was this kind of looking back at the past and the kind of historic timeline. One Katie developed as well was the actual wall to make insertion slots so you could see through into the church, and we'd have that grown with wildflowers, pocket beds in place, so it kind of ties the scheme in. So it's really just about using textures to define space. The other kind of thing we had this idea of having a kind of contemporary pavilion which could double up as a place for like a local market stall or something to kind of bring business and people into the space. It could also be used for temporary art, sculpture, exhibitions, things like that, and create like an artistic hub kind of area.
We were looking at it very much as a space you would move through rather than design it as a space where you would linger, one of the main ideas was having water. Quite like the idea of hard stone, which characterises Edinburgh, and water, you know, having a sort of interplay of that.
And maybe taking away some of the railings, such as the ones beside the church with the red door.
So this is maybe a wall that people might happen to sit on if they so chose.
And the idea was to try and sort of introduce the space just around the church as well, so to get the public sort of feeling that they could take ownership of that space.
I thought maybe the idea of something that I sort of, obviously the most obvious thing is some kind of kiosk-y type, mini pavilion-y type thing where you could get coffee, maybe buy magazines and newspapers, because otherwise you have to go to the next street, Nicholson Street.
Well, we had a strategy that would run between these fountains. They would be right across the site, although we've only done 4 or 5. But they could change their intensity, so you know it may be that they're programmed to work in a different way throughout the day on a 24-hour cycle. But the introduction of light, particularly as you know as it starts to get dark, would add atmosphere to the site, and it would work really well with the water.